Silent night, holy night, all is calm.
Hi, this is old Claude again, and I'm coming with some Christmas notes, just in case some of you have been wondering, well, where's Claude? Okay, so lest you forget all about me, I've got some miscellaneous stuff I want to share with you, but I've entitled this segment Christmas Notes. First of all, I want to thank my son David for all that he has done in propelling me into the electronic age by way of the YouTube. And then for his doing all the nuts and bolts work of editing these segments. Now, all he's gotten out of it is a thank you from me, and sometimes those have been few and far between. So I want to thank David publicly for this, because were it not for him, this ministry would not exist. Then I want to tell you about what I want to do after the first of the year. I would like to put together a series of segments on Paul Benson's book or booklet. Sort of, you can get it off of YouTube, Paul Benson, but it's called A Bucket Full of Holes. And it's solid proof the pre-trib rapture theory is false. And what I would like to do is so digest it and then put it out and give you a chance to argue with it, or be like the Bereans spoken of in the New Testament, who searched to see whether that which Paul was preaching was true. So we want to come out with the truth after considering everything possible about the pre-trib rapture. And this is an issue that must be resolved, I feel like, for the church. There are a lot of folks who are rather laissez-faire about it. But I think it's critical that we get it right. Now, I want to say something about Christmas specifically as it related to Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. You know, sometimes we make things to be so light and lovely and whatever as it surrounds Christmas, that we're extra thoughtful, caring, loving, kind, and that's all good. But Christmas for Jesus and Mom and Dad, it wasn't any picnic. I mean, starting with his birthplace, you know, wherever that was, it certainly wasn't in a proper bed. That wasn't so. And then by the time he was at least 2 years old, and apparently they hung around in Bethlehem. There are no scholarly treatments on this to point out why. We can only deduce that because Herod had all of the children 2 years of age and under killed, we figure it was about they had still been in, Joseph, Mary, and Jesus were still in Bethlehem. And so they had to hightail it from Bethlehem to Egypt. And quite frankly, unless you go to the history book and somehow can find out when it was that Herod died, they were there until Herod died. And then they came back, and because of some other complications, they wound up being in Nazareth. And we don't know exactly what his age was then. The next thing we know about Jesus was at the age of 12, he was in the temple. He was having a question and answer session with the temple authorities at that time, and they were totally amazed. And then after that, 18 years more elapses to his 30th birthday, thereabouts, when that was the age whenever a guy was judged fit to teach as a priest. So there are all these silent years that we have about Jesus, but all that we need for salvation has been included in the Scriptures. Now, that doesn't keep us from being loving and kind and all that, thoughtful at Christmas time. But we do need to keep in mind that this was a time when, at precisely the right moment, I mean, Jesus came into history. No accident about that. And you need to study that up, that at precisely, it says that in the fullness of time, at precisely the right moment, Jesus came. And the whole of his life was actually geared that way. Now, so I'm going to wind this thing up, and let me give you just a little bit of personal history. It doesn't make what I've got to say any more legitimate, but let me remind you of my journey. In 1955, at the age of 17, I was converted and called to preach. And that was 63 years ago, and that has not changed. I immediately went to college, and then I went to seminary. Then after graduating from seminary, I came walking right into the charismatic revolution, if you please. It was just all over the place, and I read voraciously at that time, just trying to keep up with what was going on. Some of it was off the wall, some of it was good, but I appreciated it. Then whenever the charismatic movement sort of came to, it really dwindled down, I became acquainted with the prophetic movement in Kansas City Fellowship through Mike Bickle and those related to him. And because of that relationship, we had Art Katz, Messianic Jew, come to Lincoln Christian Fellowship where I was pastor, and he had a time of ministry there. And because we clicked together, I wound up traveling around the world with him and getting a fresh Messianic Jewish perspective on things by being constantly exposed to him. We were traveling for, I don't know how long we were gone. We were 3 weeks in Australia, 3 weeks in New Zealand, and then about a week in Hawaii and on the West Coast. And then we turned around. We were home for 5 days and went back to Israel and Egypt for 3 more weeks. So it was a comprehensive dose of Art Katz that I got. And then after we moved to Georgia in 2003, I became more tightly related with Rick Joyner and his ministry through Morning Star in Fort Mill, South Carolina. And since then, that continues to the present, and since then, I've become acquainted with a number of young prophets. God is raising up a whole new breed. And it was said after the death of Billy Graham that a new level, a new breed of leadership would be raised up. And I just hope to keep within shouting distance of what's going on, and then out of that, the distillation of some of those experiences, I'll share with you. Okay? Blessings on you. Now, don't forget to let us know what you think about what I have to say, and maybe consider becoming a subscriber. Okay? Blessings on you.